So today's video is going to be a little bit touchy for some people. So I'm burning some Palo just to make sure that my delivery of this message is non-judgmental and easy for people to digest and receive with love and compassion, okay? Today, I'm going to be talking about why traction alopecia and the subject of traction alopecia is so taboo in the Black community. Okay, so in previous videos, I've talked about the importance of using the term traction alopecia because it sets it apart from other types of alopecia. Alopecia is just a blanketed and generalized term for hair loss. The only type of alopecia that is 100% preventable is traction alopecia, and this is the reason why it is so important that if you have traction alopecia, you use it by its term, because you are now empowering yourself. When you just say, I have alopecia, or when people refer to it just in general, oh, she has alopecia, there could be something wrong, and really it's traction alopecia, you take away your power. Now you're putting yourself in a category of someone who, let's say, has cancer, right? And they're going through chemotherapy, and their hair loss is medically related. Traction alopecia is not medically related. You can literally self-diagnose it, and it only takes two things, and that's vision and honesty. You will see with your eyesight that the style you just took down thinned your edges out. And then you have to be honest in your assessment of putting the two together. A lot of people don't want to be honest about it because the styles that they're wearing that caused it are the styles that make them feel beautiful. And I get it, I understand it. But if you want to change that, this is where using traction alopecia, the full term, is so important, because now you're empowered. I'm actually glad that people have traction alopecia. I know that might sound weird, right? What does she mean she glad people have? Because it's preventable. Because as long as you don't let it get too far, it's reversible. It's all about you. It's a change in the mindset. Whereas the medically related types and the genetic types you don't have any control. Traction alopecia, you have full control over it, so it's extremely empowering. But the fact that it's so taboo to talk about it is why I wanted to make this video. We have to be able to be honest within this conversation. I did a TikTok video where I talked about toxic hairstylists, right? Who just see their clients who've been patronizing them for years start to have traction alopecia, and all they want to do is come up with ways to cover it up. That is toxic, because that means that they don't care about you, and all they're trying to do is get money from you. They're not trying to educate you about traction alopecia. They're not offering you any different types of styles to wear to lessen the effects of the traction alopecia. They're just making money off you and letting it get worse, okay? So that is toxic. And there were a lot of people, unfortunately, that were like defending the stylist. Oh, she has alopecia. And I'm like, okay, it's traction though. And again, it's 100% preventable. The reversing really depends on how far you allow it to go. If you end up with severe traction alopecia to where you've been gluing down wigs and snatching the glue off for years, that now your follicle is traumatized and the hair is not growing back, then that's that, right? But the key is to catch it at the very first signs and then change the styles that you're wearing, right? Catch it at the very first signs and then let your stylist know that you notice that your edges are thinning. And if they don't want to offer you a different alternative hairstyle, and if they're not willing to educate you on what traction alopecia is, deuces. And it's really that simple. On TikTok, someone had commented under the post as well, like, leave talking about alopecia to doctors. I'm not a doctor, never claimed to be, but I'm also not dumb. I can definitely see thinning edges, the effects of tight braids, anything tight, whether it could even be a ponytail being on the scalp. For instance, even with myself, I went 7 months without a retwist, and I noticed that from me wearing head wraps all the time, it was thinning my edges out a little bit. And I was like, okay, won't be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, when you see it, you have to be able to make a change, and you have to be honest with yourself about it. Not wanting to talk about it, not wanting to admit it, not wanting to have the conversation is rooted in us following a beauty standard that is not meant for us. And in my opinion, that is why the topic is so taboo. Because if we would admit that we're choosing these styles, we're choosing to use glued on wigs with straight hair that doesn't look like our own hair, but that's what makes us feel good. That attachment is why we don't want to talk about it. That attachment is why we want to make it something that's unpreventable. That attachment is why we don't want to call it what it is. Because deep down we know that attachment to those styles are what is making it happen, but the attachment is so strong and so real that we don't even want to talk about it. We'd rather act like we're a victim of something medically related when that's not true. We have to be able to admit, sisters, that this is something that doesn't have to happen, that this is something that is 100% preventable. Now, for the most part, when I make content around traction alopecia, how to prevent it, what it is, and I'm describing different things, it's very supportive, but I notice that the support comes from women who are already natural, or who may have had traction alopecia and they already went through the mental transformation that is required to reverse it. First and foremost, doesn't start with an oil, right? It starts with that mental transformation. So they've already done it. So in the comments, they're like, yeah. One thing that I do when there's a comment like, how do you know it's traction alopecia? You're not a doctor and anything like that. Or it's just hair, like you're making a big deal about, you're reaching and all that. The first thing I do is I go to their profile. 99.99999% of the time, every photo that I see is a wig or a weave. And in the comments, they'll be like, I'm natural, you know what I mean? But the whole natural underneath, like, we need to get away from that too. I mean, it's natural in the sense that you don't have a relaxer on it. But if you're never wearing it, you're never showing it, you're neglecting the care, like, you might as well not even claim to be natural, because what is the point? Is it just a talking point? Is it a way for you to like make yourself feel like you're doing something good, even though you're gluing on wigs and wearing long, tight, heavy braids and wigs and weaves and covering it up all the time? If that makes you feel good to be able to say, but I'm natural underneath, you need to tap in. If you really want to have healthy hair, it requires care. It requires you to have constant access to carry out a regimen that is based on what your hair needs to be healthy. And it can't do that if you're constantly covering up. So if you're watching this and you're struggling with wearing hairstyles that you know are causing your edges to thin, and you're seeing them thin more and more over time, be honest with yourself. You have the vision to look and see what's going on. And you can be honest, and you can connect that vision to that honesty and call it what it is, which is traction alopecia, not just alopecia. Okay? So I just want to say thank you for watching. If you are struggling with it, I have an ebook that you can download. Go to my website, www.amberfrank.us. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share with someone that you may know who is struggling with traction alopecia. And of course, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.